Well, Carmen Goodyear and Laurie York, thank you for joining us via Zoom. It's a pleasure to have you here, and it was an absolute delight to screen your film. Why don't we start by, I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what your lives were like before deciding to come up to Mendocino County and become back-to-landers and farmers.
Well, I guess I'll start since I came up so long ago, in 1969.
This is Carmen.
Oh, sorry. I came from Berkeley, where just weeks before we found a place in Philo, they'd been having the People's Park protests, and there were tanks in the streets, and we said, we have to get out of here. The cities are not going to last much longer. So we found a place in Philo for a year and started accumulating some goats and chickens, and realized that we really seriously wanted to learn to farm. And then we found a place in Albion and on the coast, and we're drawn to this area because it was already a little bit of an alternative community had started up somewhat from the Art Center in Mendocino, and then a few back to the landers. We all sort of came within a year from all over the place, LA and New York and the Bay Area. And we all were sort of had the same idea. We had to get out of the cities and try to learn how to be more self-sufficient. So,
yeah.
So
Laurie, how about you?
Well, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I moved to San Francisco in 1981. And while I was there, I studied painting and drawing and the arts, and it was really a culturally amazing time for me. And then after 7 years, I felt like I had absorbed pretty much what I needed from the city, and I really wanted to live in a rural area. So I actually placed an ad in the Press Democrat saying that I wanted to caretake a property in exchange for housing, and got a huge amount of response. And anyhow, but the first folks that contacted me were a group of 7 couples, and they were lesbian couples who owned a property here on the coast in Albion. And so I was caretaker for that property for 8 years. And during that time, Carmen and I were painting together. We both went out plein air painting. So that's how we got to know each other, and then later became partners.
Nice.
And moved to the farm, and within, I don't know, a few months, Laurie had accumulated chickens and goats and pigs and horses and donkeys, and she was just a farmer at heart. She didn't know.
Well, there was the space. Suddenly, I could do it, and Carmen was so kind to let me, and so I enjoyed that period. It was sort of like amazing. But now we've pared down quite a bit in our older years. And Carmen, you just have chickens and no large livestock anymore. It was too much as we got older. But we have a dog and a cat and a whole bunch of chickens and 2 big gardens.
Nice. We wanted to screen this film at the Grace Hudson Museum because it has part of the history of the Back to Land movement and definitely perspectives on that. But really, at its core, it's about conscious community building. And I'd like to ask each of you, what does conscious community mean to you?
Well, using the word conscious, for me, it all started with consciousness raising groups. And we started our first group in Albion, I think, in 1970. And it was a small group, and it grew into a larger group. But it was a thing that the women's liberation movement had just kind of discovered, that women, we love to talk in groups, and we could explore how we'd been raised in the 50s to be proper young ladies or whatever, to just all the restrictions on growing up as a woman in this culture. And it was an amazing way to understand that conditioning and raise our consciousness of what else we could be, what else we could do. And so that's where it started. And then with the women's groups, concurrently, men's groups sprang up. And then, of course, women were raising the children, so they wanted to bring that raised consciousness to their children. And it just grew into this generation's message. So that's where it came from for me.
Yeah. Laurie, any other thoughts you have on that?
Oh, I do. I love this question. Well, I grew up in Memphis, and the only community I knew there was a church community. And when I moved to San Francisco, I was pretty much invisible. I loved being invisible at that time. And I really had no concept of community. And when I moved to the coast, right away, it was in 81, and Don Hofberg invited me to come to the oil hearings in Fort Bragg. And when I walked in that room, and suddenly there were Don and Bob, her husband, speaking to this huge group of people in front of the Coastal Commission, I guess it was. Mm-hmm. And, it was powerful. I had no concept of how community works. And it was just like, wow, you can actually have a voice, and you can say things, and you can shape your community if, you speak up. And then the victory, because the Reagan proposal didn't go through and oil rigs weren't built, thank goodness, off our Mendocino coastline. And so it just it really empowered me, and it made me have a political sensibility. And I think that has led to a lot of other things that Carmen and I have done.
So, Laurie, would you say the experience expanded your idea of thinking politically, about activism, about taking control of your own lives?
Oh, absolutely. It made me feel a part of something. I felt like I agreed with these people, and I wanted to do something. And I didn't speak up. I was quiet that day. I didn't know what to say, but they did. And I listened and I learned. And I think that's how it happens. You watch, and these activists, these old time activists that have had so much experience, speaking to the powers that be, and they, they knew how to present themselves, and they were very dynamic, and it was inspiring. It was amazing, and it shaped me. It really shaped me.
Yeah. And many others, I imagine, too.
Mm.
So let's talk about actually the making of the film. What inspired you to make this film? And did either of you have any filmmaking experience when you undertook this project?
Well, leading into this from the question before about activism, we had made films, and Laurie can address that, but when we decided to make this particular film, we started with a title called The Power of Protest. And we gathered all kinds of information and histories of what had happened here on the coast since my time of living here and since Laurie's time, to stop the development and the crazy schemes that people have come up with to destroy this gorgeous, the whole county, but the coastal, for us, environment. And I had talked with somebody recently about Els Cooperrider and Doug Moselle. We interviewed them about stopping the GMOs, which is more of an inland issue since that's a more agricultural area. So we had all this, information, and then we found this footage about that was taken in the Country Women days, and I thought, this is really what we know.
And where did you find it?
In the barn, in a box, in reels. Luckily, reels of film preserved in cans,
metal canisters.
So it was all in good shape, and so it took a slightly different turn, but that was the heart of the film, was what this community has done to preserve the environment.
Right. Was that 16 millimeter film, Carmen?
Super 8.
Super 8. Okay.
Yeah, it was really exciting to look back on that beautiful old archival footage, and we'd been tossing the idea around about this film, and then when we found that, it was like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Technology changes have been a big part of the filmmaking story.
Oh yeah, so much. Yeah, we in terms of experience, our experience was as painters and artists, and so we had some sensibility there, but then in terms of filmmaking, we knew nothing, although we had made one feature-length film, Freedom to Marry, The Journey to Justice, and that film was made with a very inexpensive camera and not a lot of knowledge about filmmaking. But let
me just say, it was all new technology at the time in 2004. The mini DV cameras, the iMovie editing program, all of that was just allowing regular people to make films.
Yeah, we jumped in at a kind of a turning point, and then that film, Freedom to Marry, really surprised us, because at how far it went, and it won lots of awards, and it screened in festivals all over the world. It was translated to 4 languages: Spanish, French, Chinese, and Dutch.
Wow.
It aired nationally on PBS. And so, all these things were just like, wow, I think we can make films. And so then we made Women on the Land. Yeah, Women on the Land was next. And prior to that, we made a lot of short films around the farm just to practice and
for the nonprofits.
And for nonprofits. Yeah, we made a lot of films that we volunteered to make for nonprofits locally.
And those films would help those nonprofits advocate for their cause?
Yes, raise money, fundraising, and awareness. There's a little program called Second Chance Fort Bragg. They actually help low-income people with their dogs, helping with all kinds of needs. And they have a clinic once a month, and it was in Fort Bragg, and it was kind of hidden away by the food bank. And when I saw the program, I loved it so much, but I felt like, well, I didn't know about it. I bet there are a lot of people who don't even know about it. So I made this short film for them and got it online and stuff, and it really helped a lot. And they got a huge amount of grant funding from that. From that film. So I realized, oh, we can help, we can do things. Yeah, we made something for the Bookmobile and
the Art Explorers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got this treasure trove of Super 8 film. You decided you want to make this film. Tell us about the process of making it. How some of the artistic decisions you made. For instance, you feature a lot of the process of farming throughout your film, and then you've got a lot of other women talking heads talking about Country Women magazine and various other things. So tell us about the process of making it, how you made artistic decisions, and also how long did it take you to make from conception to completion?
I would say at least 2 years for sure. Well, let's see. First of all, I mean, we both do all the work. I mean, we don't have crew. We don't have anything to help us on any of the aspects of it. But Laurie does most of the filmmaking, since she's just excellent at seeing, and I like to read a lot, so I do more of the editing. Although we inspire each other back and forth. But one editing decision that we learned from making Freedom to Marry was that it's really more dynamic to cut into the talking heads. Before we just had them talk for 10 minutes and then switch to some B-roll. But anyway, that's one thing that we learned from making that first film.
So it seems as if they're speaking to one another. There's sort of like a back and forth, and you stick with the themes, and it just helps move along, and it's just more interesting to watch. But yeah, I mean, we didn't go to film school or anything. We didn't learn, this is just like, as we go. and we didn't even have YouTube back then, so it was kind of just figuring stuff out. And again, we had a very inexpensive camera, and that's my only regret. If I were to do the film over, we have better equipment now with interchangeable lenses, and so it would be visually different, but we wouldn't have made it if we hadn't started where we started. So for me, my advice to young filmmakers would be, just use what you got and tell the stories, don't wait, because that will come gradually. Things evolve.
Let's stop for a minute from the film. You both talked about artistic backgrounds. Did you have academic training in the arts, in painting, or any of the other disciplines of the arts?
No.
Well,
I didn't at all.
I studied a little bit at the Art Institute in San Francisco, and then the San Francisco School of Art. I did a lot of life drawing, that kind of thing. And then when I came here, I studied with Ron Artaud, who was a pretty incredible plein air painter. And so, yeah, just not a lot of training, no, but we've stuck with it, and we've had a lot of experience.
Mostly self-taught then?
Yeah, I would say
I'm pretty much 100% self-taught. I had a friend who had painted in oils, and she showed me the basics. But I started painting. It was at the height of the women's movement, and we felt like we could do anything. At least we could try to do anything. So after I learned plumbing and goat hoof trimming and all of that, I had always wanted to paint, and I just got started, and I just got hooked right away, and actually gave up the farm for a number of years to just focus on painting.
Wow.
And Carmen traveled. You traveled to England and France, and lived in France, and painted the countryside, and a huge amount of work.
Huge. Came back and showed my work at the art center, and it's funny you asked that question, because yes, I'm an artist, but not academically trained, or I don't know. It's a
lot of artists, great artists, weren't academically trained. I mean, it's really the work, that matters.
Are you both still painting?
Yes.
Do you do it on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Yeah, every day.
That's wonderful. All right, let's talk about the film's been made now, and back in 2012, and it has been presented in many different places. If I'm not mistaken, it won an award at I think a Colorado Film Festival. And one of the things that very much intrigued me, it has been used in feminist course curriculum at universities. Did you ever imagine that this humble film about farming in Mendocino County would resonate with so many people?
Oh, I think we did. I think after our experience with Freedom to Marry, we felt like, if you make a film that means something to people, that we trusted that it would be seen. And we tried to always consider the audience as we edit and as we film. And we knew that if we could, it was sort of our goal to please the coastal community. I mean, that was sort of the target audience at the time.
To
highlight them, but also, we felt like if they responded to it, then maybe others would. And then it gradually, we had a website and it just teachers and universities started finding it, and then they included it in their libraries.
So the website was a major marketing tool for you guys for this film.
It's a way to, spread out for sure. I don't think we certainly didn't make any money.
Well, yeah, I
It's
mean,
marketing.
the money that we've made has allowed us to upgrade our equipment, but we were never really paid for our time or anything. But, that's kind of the way it goes with a lot of artists, and that's okay. We didn't do it for that reason.
What's interesting is that it seems to me that the film is, or the whole concept of country women, is of more interest right now than it even was back then. In terms of, I'm getting, questions about interviews and things about that time in the magazine, pretty often. And I think that
From scholars too.
yeah, from academic, scholars, and I don't know what exactly is going on, but I think young women are sort of looking at all of this again.
Yeah. Well, especially as you've commented with all the new tools for making films available to people. It's a very ripe era for going out and making a film. Now the film came out in 2012, and I'm wondering, if you were making it today, what else might you have included? Anything in the last 10 years that you would think was worthy of including in the film?
Wow, that's such a good question. Well, I think about the technical parts, like I said, I would reshoot it with, really better equipment. but that would be the part that would be important to me. There are other farmers that I have thought, oh, I wish we had included them. Yeah, there are a lot of young farmers that I would love to have included, but at the time they weren't quite farming yet. But now, of course, and then with the marijuana industry changing, there are more people, I think, trying to figure out how to live, here. And farming, I think, has done well. The farmers market seems to be thriving. So that would be another thing, just interviewing more farmers at the farmers market, maybe, different things like that.
I think for me, the thing that we sort of covered, or some, people spoke about in the film, was climate change. And for me personally, it has made a huge difference in my trajectory as a farmer, which because of the drought. And it hadn't really started back then. Maybe a little bit, but the last, how many years it's been, 11 years or something, has just changed what I'm able to do here in terms of growing. We have limited water, and then the predator situation, because it's so dry around the farm. They're coming in closer and closer, and one reason I did give up the large livestock was because of mountain lions and bear predators, and just it's
which you had never had.
Never had.
And then suddenly, and I think development is part of it. And then the access to fast food, they have garbage cans, up and down the ridge, and, they know the schedule. And we had Carmen found our car door open the other day. And when we looked inside, there was a big muddy bear print on the door, in the interior. And our neighbor had last year left a little bag of peanuts in her car, and a bear got in the car for the peanuts, and the door closed behind the bear, and the bear couldn't get out, and it just totaled her car. So yeah, they're kind of like, I think there are more bears, they're more desperate, and they are, really coming in close. So it's a different time.
And how about how do you reflect on any, could you reflect on any advances or changes in the conscious community building um, in the past 10 years? Has the trajectory of conscious community building kept on a positive path? Have there been halts? Just what are your thoughts on the last 10 years?
Well, I think the most important thing is the internet that has happened in the county listserv, because we have a bulletin board that everybody has access to instant information. And so, any protests that you want to attend, or, educational meeting or whatever, you can find out about on the listserv. And yeah, I think it's kept very active. The protests against the Jackson State Forest logging is, every day there's something going on.
And it's good to see more young people, stepping up. And as older folks are passing on and stuff, we need, oh boy, do we need the young people now. So it's, we have seen a number of our friends with grandchildren and are getting involved. And it's just, that's inspiring.
Well, I think a lot of that is a tribute to the legacy of the Back to Land movement in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And we've seen the children and grandchildren of Back to Landers being very active in the pursuit, I think, whether they call it this or not, in the pursuit of conscious community. So I think applause all around to all the Back to Landers. Ladies, it's been an absolute delight speaking with you today. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for letting us screen your film. Any other closing thoughts that you might have to impart to our audience?
Well, I love the show.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Thank you for putting on that great show, curating it the way it was presented, the people included. It was really...
Carmen and I hadn't been to the Grace Hudson Museum, so we were blown away. We had no idea of this, Mendocino County treasure, and the quality of the exhibition. It was curated so beautifully with so much care. That was conscious, that very conscious effort there. It's a really high quality exhibit, and
then the permanent collection.
Oh my God.
No idea about this woman painter that we didn't even know about and what she'd accomplished.
We didn't know. And then we had a tour of the house, the Sun House, and that was just like stepping back into another era. And it was just, what a day. We didn't expect that. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
I'm going to have to invite you back to make a commercial for us.
Oh,
we would love to.
That'd be fun. Wow.
Well, I have one last question, and it has to do with the fact that a lot of your film really just shows you the active process of farming, just the routine of what people do, whether it's raising chickens or goats. Love the scene where you guys where Carmen makes cheese. But I have to ask, because I felt she was one of the stars of the movie, Vita. What did she run her life's course? She was 3, I think, when the film came out, right?
Well, she was a good milker. I don't know if we included scenes of her giving birth, but she one time gave birth to 3 does. They were all just gorgeous kids. She just, she lived her life as a wonderful part of the farm. But speaking of, the predator problem, neighbors had a dog that got loose and came in and injured her pretty badly, although she was still able to get around, but her daughter had a broken leg, and it was a terrible situation. And she was traumatized by it. And so
as they got older, it just became clear that goat racing was just too much for us as we're getting older. And
Yeah.
so it seemed like a good time to just, let them pass on, and then we could retire from.
Yeah.
It's heavy, it's hard work, lifting bales of hay and grain. It's very physical.
Well, just, maneuvering them around, even though they're not cows, they're still ornery. And
Trimming hooves is
Yeah.
a huge big deal.
so it was time, but it was sad.
Yeah,
Say
we miss
goodbye.
them. But
Yeah.
that's the wonderful part about filmmaking, because and everybody captures their life now on video. So it's the memories are still very clear.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for making another film? Any thoughts in that direction?
Well,
I stepped out of it after Women on the Land. I just didn't want to, be in the computer as an editor. It was a lot of computer work. And so Laura took over and learned editing, learned everything, got better equipment, and has made a lot of films.
I've made a lot of short films, and then last year I completed a film called Flora of the Fields, and I'm really happy with that film. I love that film, and it's on Vimeo, and it's free. If
all of your
people
films
want
are on Vimeo.
Yeah, all my films, Mendocino Coast Films, Vimeo, on Vimeo. And all the short films are there. And then Flora of the Fields, which was made here on the Mendocino Coast. And it features two incredible local horticulturalists and garden designers and floral designers who have lived a very simple life doing what they love. And their values just really spoke to me as I got to know them. And the film just got longer and longer. It's 30 minutes, but it's won awards most recently in England, in a festival in Bedford, and a couple of other awards too. So anyhow, but it's a very uplifting film, and it's quite beautiful with all the gardens and flowers here on the coast.
Nice. Well, I, for one, look forward to viewing that. Well, Laurie York, Carmen Goodyear, thank you again for being with us today. And it's a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
All right.